Good day, everybody. I hope you can hear me clearly. So I'm going to give you the Government Affairs Department update. And the Government Affairs is made up of 4 people: myself, Einar Bowling, who is our public policy manager, Leslie Nobile, who's taking care of our law enforcement activities and so public trust out there, and also Bevel Woodall. Bevel is our Director of Caribbean Affairs. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you about, international internet public policy, not the type of public policy that we do. Governments, how we interact with them, law enforcement and public safety, and also touch a little bit on the Caribbean affairs and what we do there. Next slide, please. There you go. So before I engage and go through the rest of the slides, I would like to say a little something about one of our community friends lately at the beginning of the month of April said in National IGF that that internet governance is no longer a technical problem with political implications, that it's become a political problem with a technical component. And I tend to really believe him, given all of the things that we're hearing nowadays. It's kind of even rare that outside our settings and the IGF and others that we hear about internet governance. It's all about digital governance, the governance of the digital future, of the digital society, of the digital economy. So it's all the more important that we engage in, awareness raising and capacity building, because it is very important that governments and their affiliates in general and their strategic partners understand how the internet works and who at WSIS were deemed to be part of the technical community. So that's part of our outreach, and that's how we get insights, and that's how that's the reason why we engage, and we engage in, we participate in regional, our own regions, governments activities, regional organizations, but also international discussions that can impact ARIN. As an example, we go to OECD right now, in their work around going digital, for example, at OECD, they talk about anywhere from critical infrastructure to digital security, privacy, data transfers, taxation. Taxation, why we're looking at it, because as John showed you one of those slides on transfers, for example, a lot of governments or people who do not engage with us on a daily basis tend to believe that regional internet registries actually make a lot of money in transfers, because they are, of course, seeing what is happening out there, and they understand that V4 addresses now have some value. So part of the things that we have to deal with are, for example, questions around why are you selling IP addresses and how much are you making? So we have to explain all of these things, so we're not part of taxation talks, for example, going forward. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that we do to strengthen the ARIN community in our own region, foster the interregional collaboration between our own governments. When we do things in the Caribbean, for example, we tend to invite, the US and Canada, and vice versa. We increase the Caribbean contribution because as policymakers and people understand how the technical community and the number resource community as a whole, operates, they tend to be a lot more interested. We support, of course, by doing that, we support the international internet public policy development process, and we share, our own community's position when time comes. Next slide. So these are some of the international trends that we're tracking pretty closely. As I told you, when people talk today about digital society or digital economy, they tend to look at the full chain of actors, really, on how the internet works and, who are the actors in there, what they are doing, how much they're making, can we tax them or not? Are they legitimate? The elephant in the room, basically, since WSIS has always been, that in the organizations that are part of the technical community, what is their legitimacy out there, and what makes their legitimacy in a sense, and how can we interact with them? Because often they have the tendency to think that they're not really, they're outside of the community that is ours. And we have to remind them, for example, that no, your network operators are part of our community. They're actually our members. So definitely, let's sit down and talk about what is going on. So when you look at, for example, infrastructure today, just about everywhere, from our service region to the UN level, to CARICOM, to OECD, everybody is talking about critical infrastructure. What is critical infrastructure? It's all of the networks today that carry, the electrical grid, that carry health, hospitals, education. More than ever, these sectors have become something really, really important since the pandemic, and the fact that everybody wants now to be connected and to have access. When you go to the economic level, we have, issues of e-commerce. Again, when the economy fails, or one part of the economy fails, let's say, the financial sector, parts of the financial sector fail, who's accountable? What are the networks that are involved? Regional internet registries, folks that we can go to. So these are all, again, the discovery really along the chain of actors is very, it is progressing, I would say, in a way that it hasn't before. When you go to development and capacity building, yes, it's, yes, everybody has to go online. So how do we make sure that everybody has the capacity, to be online? How do we actually make sure that those networks are properly connected? What is involved in the connectivity and the access? On the legal side, jurisdiction has always been one of the issues that we have had problems with in terms of, explaining to the community why, the historical basis of the internet, for example, has made it that, a lot of the big networks and ISPs are in developed countries, human rights. So is access a human right? And then again, if it is, who's accountable when those rights are abridged? And security has become just, it's everywhere. We have from the United Nations government group of experts, to the open-ended working group, to the two United Nations General Assembly committees that are dealing with security and cybersecurity and ICTs, to what I told you the OECD is doing lately, digital economy and security in the digital economy. Security has really become also the crux of any type of thoughts globally. And hopefully that will not be, the means of taking us to internet fragmentation. Next slide, please. There we go. So that's how we, we discover by monitoring the discussions, for example, around, yes, nationalization, jurisdiction security. We have heard from different regions nowadays that some are even talking about digital sovereignty as a means of basically having, anywhere from looking at root servers or, looking at registries, as being part of the digital sovereignty of regions or countries, So these are the things that we need to interpret and then talk to the governments to see, to first tell them who we are and the reasons why basically they should leave us alone to do our job and look into the plethora of regulations that are coming to make sure that we are ahead of them and we can find the points where issues are. This is actually what we're doing with our colleagues from the other regional internet registries and the Internet Technical Advisory Committee at OECD, because there's lately, in the work on security and going digital, there is a draft, for example, that is specifically addressing routing and DNS. And then, of course, we keep our management and the community apprised. So here, really, I would like to appeal to all of our members. Whenever you get the opportunity to talk to the governments, to talk to regional organizations, please engage and talk to them about what we're doing. It is important that, as many of us get out there and talk to them about who we are, and the reasons why, again, that they should leave us alone, if at all possible. Next slide. So these are some of the forums that we participate in. I don't think there is much to say here, but it's really, the more collaboration we can get between us and the governments, I think the better for us, because it is important that they understand where we come from in doing the job that we're doing, and not simply say, leave us alone, we know what we're doing. Because no, the internet is now, 40, 50 and more of their economy, and they won't leave us alone, that's for sure. So next slide, please. In doing that, one of the things that we're doing, especially in the Caribbean nowadays, is to foster more work with the high-level officials. Also, we have a upcoming Caribbean forum. We're going to start ARIN Lacnic Justice Forum, and we're going to do an ARIN forum for law enforcement also. And how we collaborate with them. Next slide. There you go. So these are the community-driven priorities in talking to CTU, to CARICOM, to the governments in the Caribbean region. They want more support in developing, the international internet public policies, because, among the governments that are in the Caribbean and in our region, we have 10 that are members of the UN and 9 that are members of ITU. So that participate on a daily basis in things that are happening at ITU, for example, on standards, on capacity building. They're hearing things like new IP or future vertical communication networks. What does that mean for them? And all of that. So yes, that's one of the reasons why we engage in heavily on the government side. And also LEAs. Why? Because of security. Security has become a global thing. And I think you all know that our WHOIS database has been used anyway for the longest time, the law enforcement people. But also as we go more and more online by, for example, intellectual property people, because you know, it's becoming our WHOIS is one of the ones that is open now, given what is happening, you know, at domain names level. So and again, we do this, of course, the hand holding on a individual basis or multilateral basis with the high level officials. Next slide. So these are some of the activities that we have for this year. We continue, of course, working the coordination calls, you know, one-on-one meetings with the governments in the region. We participate with in the regional organizations like CTEL. CTEL is the mechanism that we have in the Organization of American States, so our region, to basically develop the priorities and the interactions for example, at ITU level, the World Telecommunication Development Conference that is going to take place in November this year, if possible. And also the World Telecommunication Standardization Assembly. There are two of the big ITU conferences. So WTDC is for the D sector and WTSA is for the T sector on standardization. Excuse me. And then we continue, of course, practically on a daily basis, our meetings or with all of the different study groups at ITU. Just as an example, I'm going to give you for, you know, a few study groups that we, you know, participate in at ITU. So study group 3, for example, it looks at all of the economic policies and OTT taxation. We want to make sure that they don't confuse us with over the top or operators in terms of taxation. Study group 11 are, you know, talks about conformance and interoperability. Study group 13 is the one where all of the discussions happened on new IP and future vertical networks. Study group 17 is specifically on cybersecurity. Study group 20 is on standardization requirements and technologies for IoT and all of that. And yeah, and we even have, you know, resurfacing interest in national internet registries at TSAT level. So really, really a lot of work. At OECD level, as I told you, going digital, all of the aspects of going digital, and at UN, I told you about the different working groups and the United Nations General Assembly committees that we monitor. So next month, we have a Caribbean forum that is going to take place in 2 days. The first day, we are having mostly international internet public policy related discussions. We are inviting Doreen Bogdan-Martin. Doreen is the director of ITUD, so the development sector, and she's from our region. And our governments are definitely very much interested in hearing from her, especially going into the World Telecommunication Development Conference that I told you is happening normally this year. We'll also have our one and only John Curran and quite a few other speakers are lined up for this event that I think will be really very interesting. We also, on the second day, are going to have a technical group forum with CARIBNOG. And I think this one will also be pretty interesting because the region is very much looking at you know, how to connect right now. It is a region that has traditionally relied on satellite, for example, and they're looking at all of these ways of connecting. And then, of course, we help them for the next steps. In June, we're going to have so we were hoping we will have the ARIN high-level official forum, like an inaugural meeting. We hope it's still going to take place, but it might be a little bit less of what we thought, because we're waiting for information from the region to see if the officials will be available. And then on the 16th of June, we're having the ARIN Symposium for Judicial Officials, where we will also be co-opting our General Counsel to be part of the talks with people from that region. So we will make sure that all of this is posted, and I think some of them are already tentatively posted, but all of the information, for example, for registration and all of that will come as of end of this month at most. And we will make sure also for the last quarter that you get updated for at ARIN 48. Next slide. And that's it from me, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a reminder that we are opening up the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please write them in the Q&A window. Remember to include your name and company information, or you can always put your hand up and we will acknowledge you in the order that the question was received. We do have one question in the window. It's from Mercia with the Obsidian Group. How are communication satellites treated as a government affairs matter? Are satellites based on the country they launched from or the country they serve?
Anne Rochelle, do you want me to take that one?
So, yes, go ahead, John. So
recognize that per se, it's not really a question of countries versus companies. The communication satellites are something that exists as infrastructure, just like just like undersea fiber is infrastructure. All of them have owners that are often private investors, private telecommunications, but governments are very interested in where telecommunications undersea cables are very interested in the footprint of communication satellites. So even though they're not government property per se, the governments are very interested, because you have governments on occasion that wish to control the information in and out of the country. That requires knowing what the infrastructure looks like. So it becomes a government affairs matter when governments want to know how the internet's put together so that they can exercise control over parts of it. As a government, the internet's a very mysterious thing. Think about this for a moment. Telecommunications in many countries was controlled by a single government. The government in the country licensed the main telecommunications operator, and all of the phone services, all of the transport were provided by one operator, completely under government control. The internet appears, and now it's unclear how these providers are appearing that are serving your customers, serving your citizens, serving your businesses. And you don't have a department of the internet. You have a telecom department, and that does do something with phone lines. But when you actually say who's in charge of the internet in your country, in the vast majority of these countries, there is no good answer for them. There is no one in charge. And in fact, the businesses operating in a given country doing internet services may not even be known, listed, or regulated. And so communication satellites are the specific case, but governments are very interested in which communication satellites have a footprint serving their customers and whether or not they can regulate them or control that footprint. Probably more than you wanted to, but I wanted to give a full answer there.
Thanks very
anything
much,
else,
John,
Rochelle?
Yes, actually, we do have a hand raised. Sai, I am going to allow you to unmute yourself. Please state your name and your company.
Hi, my name is Saidlu Mattapalli. I am from Mattapalli Technologies, a non-profit organization. I'm trying to do telecommunication from India where one village don't have internet. So actually I have that project proposal also submitted to ARIN as a grant fellowship. So the idea is, so you said that the satellites are not regulated in some country, but as I'm an Indian citizen, I only little bit have the knowledge about this internet regulation in India. Means I have written that my idea how we can use a, means if you have a satellite, how this backhaul is regulated. So
That would be
internet
some.
regulation is this one, and how is backhaul is regulated? That is my question.
Yeah, that would be something that you would need to take up with each individual country. So that's something you need to take up with the government in India if you want to talk about the backhaul regulation in India.
Yes, and actually,
how it
you
is
should go
in
to the
USA
regulator.
are common. How it is in USA are common? Can you have any? So I want to learn, right? First to ask them.
I would say the ARIN focuses on the IP addresses and their administration. We do spend quite a bit of time educating governments about how the internet works and how IP addresses are used in construction of the internet, but we are not a regulatory body and we don't deal with government regulatory matters over infrastructure such as fiber, intersea fiber, satellite, spectrum. All of those are government matters for each individual respective economy.
Okay, that is all the questions I see.
Wonderful. If you allow me, I'll just say, I will just add for Mercia that this is actually something that is very much on the plate at the international telecommunication, radio communication sector right now, with everybody going after their own constellations to offer the internet internationally. The orbital slots are completely crowded and it's becoming a huge issue internationally. So the next World Radio Communication Conference is definitely going to be about all of these things. Thank you very much for being here. And if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the chat and I will try and answer. Thank you, John. Thank you all.
Thank you, Angel. So moving on to our next session, we're going to have the global reports from our fellow RIRs, and Kim Davies also presenting from IANA PTI. So take it away.